Tim had been a devoted park ranger for more than 10 years, and each day on the job felt like a gift. He cherished his routine, walking the same winding trails, checking on wildlife, inspecting water sources, and ensuring the park stayed a haven for all its inhabitants. The forest's familiar sights and sounds never grew dull. The rustling leaves, bird calls, and sudden flashes of movement in the underbrush filled him with quiet joy. One of his favorite spots was an old oak tree, home to a nest he had observed for years. He remembered the day it first appeared, just a mess of twigs and leaves that gradually grew into a sturdy home for a pair of bright, lively songbirds. Every morning, their cheerful chirping welcomed him. But today, something was different. The tree was silent. Approaching the oak, Tim noticed how quiet the area had become. The forest was still alive in other parts, the distant calls of birds and the whispering wind in the trees were all present, but around the oak tree, there was an unnatural stillness. The nest, usually full of fluttering wings and activity, was now eerily still. Tim frowned, unease growing in his chest. He moved closer, trying not to disturb anything, but the silence remained. There were no feathers, no fallen twigs, no signs of life. His eye scanned the ground for clues. At first, it looked undisturbed, but then he spotted faint markings, shallow impressions in the dirt that looked intentional. They weren't animal tracks, they looked human. Tim's concern deepened. Something wasn't right. Determined to find answers, Tim returned early the next morning before sunrise, bringing a ladder and a small toolkit. The air felt unusually heavy, as though the forest itself was holding its breath. He carefully climbed the ladder, the sound of the metal rungs unusually loud in the quiet. Normally, such noise would send birds scattering, but there was still no reaction. Reaching the top, Tim was struck by what he saw. The nest was damaged, a large, ragged hole torn in its side, something no wild animal would have done. As he looked closer, he spotted something strange among the twigs, a small egg, beautifully patterned with vivid, unnatural colors. It didn't belong. It wasn't from any species he recognized. Someone had put it there. His hands trembled as he climbed down, the weight of this discovery settling heavily on him. This wasn't just about a couple of missing birds, something far more sinister was happening. In the days that followed, Tim threw himself into the investigation. He documented everything, the nest, the markings, the mysterious egg. He searched the area and found more oddities, a torn piece of fabric, a broken tool. Other rangers hadn't noticed anything unusual, but some park visitors mentioned seeing shadows near the oak tree late at night, or hearing strange, unfamiliar noises. These scattered observations helped confirm Tim's growing fear: someone was using the park for illegal activity. Eventually, he found a hidden trail, one he'd never seen before. Following it led him to a secluded clearing, where he made a chilling discovery: empty animal cages, discarded tools, and more of those strange, colorful eggs. The park wasn't just being disturbed, it was being exploited. A smuggling ring was using it as a secret hub for trafficking rare wildlife. Tim went to the authorities, but the police initially dismissed his concerns, suggesting it was probably just kids causing trouble. Frustrated but undeterred, Tim kept investigating. He set up his own surveillance, tracked movements, and collected detailed evidence. After several tense weeks, he finally had enough proof to force the police to take action. With his help, they organized a sting operation. Tim's knowledge of the terrain was crucial. He guided officers to the hidden clearing and helped them plan a quiet ambush. On the night of the operation, tension filled the air. Tim crouched in the shadows, heart pounding, listening to the stillness around him. Just when doubt began to creep in, figures emerged from the darkness, carrying bags and tools. The officers sprang into action, catching the smugglers red-handed. Their bags were full of rare animal eggs, ready for transport. Tim felt a rush of both anger and relief. His beloved sanctuary had been used for greed, but now, it would be protected again. The subsequent investigation revealed the vast scale of the smuggling operation. It spanned multiple states and targeted dozens of protected species. The nest Tim had watched for years had been one small part of a much larger network. Thanks to his persistence and unwillingness to let go of a mystery, the ring was dismantled, and those responsible face serious legal consequences. In the weeks that followed, the park began to heal. The sounds of nature slowly returned to normal, and the forest seemed to breathe again. Tim found peace in knowing he had protected what he loved, but he also felt changed. He no longer saw his role as simply a caretaker. Now, he understood he was a guardian, a defender of something fragile and precious. One morning, as he made his usual rounds, Tim heard a sound that made him stop in his tracks, the soft, familiar chirping of birds. Looking up at the old oak tree, he saw a new nest forming in the branches. Life, as it always did, was returning. A small smile formed on his face. The forest had endured, and so had he. Though scarred, the park was still a place of wonder and hope. And Tim, once just a ranger, now stood as its protector, not just of the trails and trees, but of every fragile life within.